You have 100,000 naira or $90 and you really need a phone. Well, I've got two choices for you. But then, for that price, you don't want to waste your money. You want to get value for your money. The itel A70 or the Redmi A3 could be a perfect choice for you. After using both phones side by side for over a week now, I have something to share with you in case you're on a tight budget and you still want to spend your money wisely. For starters, with 80,000 naira, you can pick up the base model of the itel A70, while for the base model of the Redmi A3, you have to spend 97,000 naira. You can hardly find anything cheaper unless maybe you are buying a phone, a feature phone that has buttons, but I bet you there is no cheaper phone out there than these two. And if in case there is any other phone that you think is cheaper than these two phones, kindly talk about them in the comment section, and if they make sense, I might buy them myself, test them, and make a review video about them. Inside the box, you're getting some accessories with both phones, but the itel edges the Redmi by providing a TPU case, and you also get an earpiece in the box. You see how the Redmi A3 looks. It's quite difficult to get a TPU case that is going to fit this phone. I've actually went out to where they sell smartphone cases and I asked them if they can get me a case for the Redmi A3, but it has been difficult. The itel A70 has a matte plastic finish at the back. The back finish makes it comfortable in the hand, and I love how the rounded edges feel in the hand. It makes holding the phone a bit better. My variant of the Redmi A3 has a leather finish, but the frames are also made of plastic. You get a large camera cutout at the back, which might not sit well with most people, but remember, the leather gives it some premium vibe. The itel A70 looks like an iPhone at a glance, and I have asked some people for their opinion on the design of the phone, and most people tend to like it. What about you? Which design do you prefer? Let us know in the comment section. The itel A70 feels a bit lighter in the hand, and it's also a bit wider than the Redmi A3. They both charge through a USB-C port, and they also have a headphone port. We get the headphone port of the Redmi A3 at the top, while the headphone port of the itel A70 is located at the bottom. The itel A70 has a down-firing speaker, while the Redmi A3 has a top-firing speaker. In terms of sound, I find the itel A70 to be a bit louder, and you get bass with the Redmi A3 because it's not that loud. They both have a side-mounted fingerprint scanner and are relatively both fast. It's a bit hard to pick out which one is faster than the other, but the case on the itel A70 makes it more comfortable to access the fingerprint scanner. You get a SIM card slot that also doubles as the memory slot on both phones, and they both support 4G SIM cards. Generally, in terms of design, I prefer the itel A70 because I'm not a fan of a big phone. I'll pick a smaller phone over a big one any day, anytime. Up front, we have a 6.6-inch display on the itel A70, and the Redmi A3 has a 6.71-inch display. They both have an IPS LCD display with a 720p resolution, and the Redmi A3 edges the itel A70 with the 90Hz refresh rate. Practically, both displays are functional and feel smooth while using them. They both have a punch hole cutout, but the dynamic bar on the itel A70 makes the display looks aesthetically pleasing. You get a true white color with the display of the itel A70, while the Redmi A3 is saturated. Placing them side by side, you will notice the difference, and depending on what you prefer, I don't think it will make a significant impact. Streaming content on both displays is okay, and you can rely on them in that aspect. They both have up to 500 nits of brightness when you take them outdoors, which is impressive for a budget phone. The bezel around the display is also a bit bigger on the Redmi A3. This aspect should have been a type because in day-to-day usage, there isn't any difference. The 90Hz refresh rate is only the extra edge that the Redmi A3 has, and you also don't get it all the time on the display of the phone. The itel A70 is powered by the Unisoc T603, while we have the Helio P35 powering the Redmi A3. I downloaded some demanding games like Call of Duty Mobile and PUBG, and they were playable, but there are a lot of other games in the Play Store that you cannot play on these phones. In fact, having these phones side by side, taking them out of the box, I didn't expect them to even play those type of games. In terms of normal scrolling across social media and contacts, none of the phones perform better than the other. They were really close in this aspect, and at this price point, you shouldn't expect some crazy performance, and I feel it's down to optimization. We have the Redmi A3 running on Android 14, while the itel A70 is running on the Android 13 Go edition. While Android 14 is like the latest, I feel going with the Go edition of Android 13 has kind of giving the itel A70 an edge over the Redmi A3, because It is kind of smooth, and there are times when if you open an app, you're going to see the animations washed up on the Redmi A3. One thing that I also need to tell you is that the software on the Redmi A3 doesn't look close to like any of the other Redmi devices. Even let's say the cheaper Redmi 13C, the software is way better than this. This feels like more of a stock Android experience here, even though it's Android 14, and a lot of the features that we have on Xiaomi's MIUI are lacking on the Redmi A3. Now, both phones have a 5000 mAh battery, and you are rest assured to get a day of battery life on both phones easily. When it comes to battery management though, I would say the itel A70 does a better job. I think it's due to the fact that you have a 60Hz refresh rate on the display here, while you are having the 90Hz refresh rate on the display of the Redmi A3 that kind of consume a little bit of battery here and there. In terms of camera, the itel A70 comes with a 13 megapixel primary camera at the back, while we have an 8 megapixel primary camera at the back of the Redmi A3. For selfie, you get an 8 megapixel here, while the Redmi A3 comes with a 5 megapixel camera up front. You shouldn't expect super camera performance on both phones when you consider how much they cost. The major difference between the two in terms of camera boils down to the software processing. You get warmer images with the itel A70, while we have a more saturated color on the Redmi A3. I had to move the images to my laptop to understand which of these phones take better pictures, and honestly, in my opinion, I don't think you can really take away anything in terms of how the pictures look. One thing that I also noticed is the lack of consistency in terms of pictures, because some might turn out good and others will not turn out good. The most important thing is you need a environment with good light, and you need your hands to also be steady while snapping pictures with both phones. Now, both phones can record videos at 1080p 30 fps max, and there isn't really anything that you can take away from both cameras. Here are more pictures and videos from both phones. I want you to be the judge and tell me which pictures you prefer in the comment section. Rounding up, you can clearly see that both phones are really close, but then the itel A70 costs just 80,000 naira for the base model, and it's really hard to separate both phones going by just the specs. You have to get them in your hands and feel them, and I feel the itel A70 can virtually do everything that the Redmi A3 can do, even though it's a bit more expensive. Which phone do you prefer? I would like to know in the comment section. If you have any questions regarding any of these phones, feel free to ask them in the comment section. I'm going to be there and I'll answer you. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to see you in my next video, which is the review of the itel S24 showing on your screen right now. I'll catch you in that video.